Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovias inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Anybody can podcast on a Monday. And I feel like our summer series, our Monday show, should just be called Anybody Can Podcast on a Monday here on Ovias and Giglio. But not everybody can get your documents to the cloud with efficiency and professionalism and customer care like Copiers Plus. So check them out online at copiers-plus.com. I feel like anybody can podcast on a Monday when North Carolina's off to the College World Series. NC State puts work on Georgia, and Georgia's like, yeah, no, we don't have it today.
So all I want to know is who's wearing black tonight.
So then they give it to winner. They give it to State. They give it to State on Sunday. And yeah, they play tonight at 7:00. And then if I'm in South Carolina, if I'm doing Clemson Sports Talk Radio today, big day, man. 3 ejections yesterday.
The NCAA. This is because we sued the ACC, and Jim Phillips knows everybody. And did you know that the umpire is related to the kid who was crying at the Northwestern game? Who is Jim Phillips' son?
The call is coming from Charlotte. Let's talk about State though, because they play tonight with the right to go to the College World Series. I honestly do not know what to make of what to expect tonight when both teams basically had their days.
Just tell me which team's wearing black.
Is it that simple?
State wore black in the first game, win, big. Georgia comes out, wears black in the second game, wins.
But wait a minute. Is this yet another example of NC State shit being dead? Because remember, when NC State wears black,
Damon Thornton gets ejected and Herb can't win. No, it's all dead.
Yeah. 10 points up at St. John in the first half.
The only thing I would say is Georgia's lineup is preposterous.
Yeah.
Like when they were going through all the stats and the number of players that they have who have hit multiple double-digit home runs, and the one guy like with like this ridiculous Pete Incaviglia like year where he's hitting 400 and has 30-something home runs. Their lineup is crazy. I think their park is a little small.
Mm-hmm.
I think they kind of like it that way.
I had seen that blurb out there, which leads to stuff like this.
Yeah, and I think State was kind of like, oh, okay, well, we'll take advantage of that too. Obviously pitching at a premium here. So, it's true coin toss. This is a true coin toss to me.
It's funny you mentioned the pitching because I had done a Sirius XM spot with our friend Roddy Jones on Friday. And they were getting prepped and all this other stuff. And it's not like I spend a lot of time watching Georgia baseball, but I did kind of throw it up to Roddy to educate myself. And the person who was co-hosting at the time, Danny, who was here for the NC State regional, I was like, my understanding is Georgia's bullpen isn't exactly all that, whereas NC State's classic Sidney Lowism, your best players got to be your best players.
Well, your best players have to be your best players, and then they have to make shots. It's the only way you can win.
And I felt like with NC State going into the super regionals, that's what you had seen. AMAC was your regional MOP. The pitching had been solid for NC State. Whereas Georgia, not so much. They get a little wonky. Like all college baseball pitching, it gets a little wonky once you get deep into the bullpen. So I'm thinking, well, shit, they dropped 18 runs on this team. What was it? 11 in the second inning?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe things are all turning up NC State. So I was surprised to see Georgia give it to them the way that NC State had given it to Georgia the day before.
If you're going to lose big.
Yeah, I thought about you because I'm like, well, if you're Georgia, man, screw it. Yeah. Man, we didn't have it today. Then State was State. And Elliot Abrams like, we didn't have it today.
Same thing. Don't waste any bullets. No, I expect tonight's game to actually be close.
Okay.
It should be tonight. Let's take this second before we get into the magic carpet ride that Carolina is on. And they are on one.
They are, yes.
To acknowledge we got 4 SEC teams in the final 8. We got 3 ACC teams in the final 8, which means the College World Series, the Men's College World Series in Omaha will be what I said, the ACC SEC Challenge, regardless if either Georgia or NC State wins tonight. It's just a matter of will it be a true match set of 4 versus 4. But what I want to acknowledge here is that NC State split their 2 games with Florida State, who's in Omaha, won the 3-game series against Virginia in Omaha, won their 3-game series with Carolina in Omaha, and now you have the chance to beat a Georgia team. Obviously, that's really good, and offensively is got to be the best offensive team in the country. I can't imagine even Tennessee or Texas A&M, who are the best teams in the SEC, have a better lineup 1 through 9 than what Georgia has produced. So really outstanding work by Elliott Avent this year, in particular, as Ben McDonald, who sounds just like Jimbo Fisher was saying over and over and over again. You got to love these guys with their talking points. It's like, NC State in the last 20 games, they've been as good as any team in the country, beating the teams I had just mentioned.
Which, by the way, real quick,
it's not I paid that thing.
What's that envelope for? Clearly, it's been opened.
This was a check from one of our corporate champions.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
I'm glad it was cashed.
They like to. I like to do that kind of thing.
Just making sure that we don't have any outstanding debts.
No.
Okay, good. We're multiplying debts.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So no, you got to acknowledge what they've done. Now we can move on to what the magic carpet ride that Carolina is on, because they are there. This is the 12th time they'll be in Omaha, first since 18. Baseball is this is the dumbest tournament. People talk about, the Stanley Cup is the hardest tournament to win. This is the dumbest tournament on the planet ever. Carolina was the best baseball team in the program for a 15-year stretch. Obviously, they went 8 times over that stretch. Did not win it once. And they had Haas's on Haas's. They had stars on stars. They had stacks on stacks and could not win this thing. Okay? It is the dumbest tournament. So maybe this year, while yes, their pitching is perfectly acceptable.
Good. They got Vance Honeycutt, who showed out this weekend.
But it ain't Andrew Miller. It ain't, you know what I'm saying?
Like,
it's not like this one, it's not Carlos Rodon. It's not like the one guy where you show up and you go, oh shit. We ain't touching a single thing that he's throwing.
Yeah.
They don't have one of those guys.
It's fair.
They do have a bona fide star, though, in Vance Honeycutt now with 26 home runs on the season, has the walk-off in game 1 against West Virginia, then opens game 2 with a home run. Carolina, as I said, the magic carpet ride, they've won 3 games in this tournament in their final at-bat, including a grand slam against Long Island. Like, that's bonkers. That is bonkers. Those are the kind of things where I listen, you people know how I feel about certain things. I really enjoy Mike Fox, and I really had wished that he had won this thing.
Yeah.
That's why last year when Wake Forest was in this thing and about to win it, I'm like, I don't want you interlopers coming in and cashing one ticket. Virginia did this in 15, the ACC's only title since 55 when Wake had won it. Like, Carolina has worked so hard to win this thing. Elliott Avent has worked so hard to win this thing. Florida State, Mike Martin for all of those years. My God.
Scott Forbes is an extension of Mike Fox, though.
He is.
So
no,
we see this with college baseball. I mean, look, we'll talk about Clemson in a second. But
I was going to say, Jack Leggett was
still
there.
he's still on the staff.
Jack Leggett was like, it really defies all logic that Florida State, Clemson, and Miami now as an ACC member, and Carolina in that run had not been able to win this tournament. It is the dumbest tournament you could possibly be in. And right down to people now acting like being the road team is some sort of significant disadvantage on your home field. Like, no. Like hitting first is not a significant disadvantage, people.
I mean, it's still home, right? And Carolina's been really freaking good at home. I think they've lost 3 times?
Yes,
they've lost 3 times.
They had an amazing record this year. So congratulations to them, because I know that I say since 18, and you talk about the standard with Carolina baseball, they are up there in that standard. They do not have the national championships to show for it. But like I said, they had a stretch there under Mike Fox where they were the top program in this country. And unfortunately, some Oregon State voodoo that kind of happened out in Omaha, first base play, and some other things where you're like, it's one of those things where you go back and you look at it and you go, now, wait a second. They had who and did not win?
You mean how? You mean winning things is hard?
Yes.
What?
This is
crazy. A double elimination baseball tournament where you don't have fully scholarship rosters and things like that. What? This is a hard thing to win. I never could have guessed that. I don't know. Maybe Carolina wins it. It's like the Tennessee T. Martin thing. You had Peyton freaking Manning and you went to the Citrus Bowl? Leaving
well, Tennessee will be the lone team on that half of the bracket with Florida State, Virginia, and Carolina.
What was the Steve Spurrier? It's like you can't spell citrus without UT.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so the other side has Kentucky, who's the second best, number 2 overall seed in this tournament. Florida, who's your wild card after a 13-17 SEC season. Florida is this year's Ole Miss, Mississippi State, where they get in and you're like, what the heck is that SEC team doing there? And then ATM ATM won me a bunch of money this weekend. I got to say thank you to all of these teams because gambling on college baseball has been the easiest thing in the history of the world. Like, are you an SEC team? Check. Are you playing an SEC team? No. Oh, okay. Give me the SEC team. I mean, Tennessee fumbled one of the games against Evansville.
Yeah.
But literally, the Tennessee-Kentucky ATM parlay has just been a free deposit into the DraftKings account.
Florida's moving on after beating Clemson, although that's where the controversial stuff comes out yesterday. So, yeah, the Clemson-Florida game was interesting, at least
speaking of dumb.
On my time, yeah, it's dumb, but my timeline was like melting down late yesterday because of what was going on between Clemson and Florida. Part of the meltdown was the fact that ESPN was having weird technical difficulties and you couldn't actually see the game.
Yeah, listen, ESPN. I worked at a newspaper. I worked in the newspaper industry that was failing. I worked at another media company that is failing, and you should not be failing in the way that these local entities are.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing that you're not sending the people who are working these games to the games. That's embarrassing. This is the national championship. This is the national tournament that you have paid millions of dollars to broadcast.
Wait,
and the fact that you're using
there was remote people.
I do not think for sure the East Carolina crew, Anish Shroff, they were not there.
They weren't
for
there?
sure, 100% sure.
Okay.
The fact that they never showed Ben McDonald and the play-by-play announcer at Foley Field in Georgia suggests to me that they're actually not there either.
Okay, I'll have to look into that because I can text the person that would find
I know Roddy and his crew were in
Roddy
Raleigh
was here,
but they're not doing it for all sites.
Okay.
And this is also gets back to my chief complaint with ESPN and the ACC network. Like, this can't be the AV club from your, this isn't like, let's go get a kid who's an engineering major and wants to go work the outfield camera. You got to put a little bit of money into this. And the fact that, and you can't even get, like, I'm also embarrassed for them that as someone who sells ads for a living, I'm watching these games on ESPN Plus and they can't sell ads. They can't insert ads into the ESPN Plus. Like, if you need me to outsource your ad sales, I can do it for you, ESPN.
No. You're already stretched thin as it is. So
okay.
Let's not add more to your plate.
So ESPN is my bottom line here. And I remember when this was on CBS way back in the day.
Yeah. You're dating yourself
back in the day, right?
Dating yourself.
But I will just say do better because, you all want to talk about how much you care about the student athletes. Well, give them a national tournament that is seeded properly and then presented properly. That's all I ask.
I'll say this about technical difficulties in defense of ESPN. Sometimes shit just breaks, man. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Sure, when you're half-assing things, they have a tendency to break and you don't want to spend money and you don't want to send people places.
Hey, sometimes
you want to cut corners. Well, guess what happens when you cut corners? Your product looks like shit.
As many times as I've done this, sometimes I will forget to check to see if the Roadcaster is connected to my computer.
But that's a you problem. You're not trying to do it from your home.
I mean, at one point I was. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I'll have to look into that with the whole ESPN thing. But I don't disagree with how they've kind of treated some of these broadcasts in that they are cutting corners as cost cutting measures because that's just the nature of the beast right now. But yeah, everybody was upset at the technical difficulties, and then everybody was upset at the umpires.
Let's throw people out
because there was 3 ejections in this game early on with one of the players because he shouldn't get it. He should not be getting into it along the first baseline. And then when the go ahead, I think it was in the 11th. Yeah, the go ahead,
the home run,
the solo shot was at Mathis was the Clemson player who spiked his bat because, oh my goodness, something exciting happened and I'm going to spike my bat. They gave him a warning, and that brought out Bakich. The 13th. Thank you. Bakich comes out, Leggett comes out. They both get ejected, which means Clemson's season is over. But they still have to serve those suspensions at the beginning of next year.
Oh, that's
because they got ejected. It's an auto 2-game suspension. So they're done. I'll say this before we move on. What happened, my understanding of what happened and following up with it, because I wasn't watching in real time, it's a classic example of, yeah, man, the people who are officiating games, umpires, referees, etc., they're human too. And sometimes you get on their bad side, it's gone. It's gone. And I think baseball sometimes is an example of
I mean,
that.
there's taking control of a situation, and then there's letting a situation get completely out of control,
which we've seen
by trying to take control. So no, I'm not. Don't give me the human empire bullshit.
Well, no, that's part of it. You and I are agreeing here. When you have the human element and all this kind of stuff, sometimes they do not know how to get control, or they lose the control, as you said, and that's kind of what happened. But I guess we'll see Clemson's coach a little bit later on in the season next year.
Housekeeping.
Brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online at enovana.com. ENOVANA.com. Green cleaning solutions.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
We've got the podcast festival coming up on August 24th. We sold some more tickets over the weekend. Tickets are going fast.
Going fast. Get them now.
It's brought to you by Breeze Through. We thank Adam and the crew over at Breeze Through for sponsoring this. I know it's a big week for Adam. It's a big stay ready week for Adam.
Yeah, he was actually texting me yesterday because he saw Jackson at his driving range. He's like, "Oh, Jackson looks
Hey,
good."
how about that?
Like,
So go to the Rialto's website. We're going to have Shutdown Fullcast here. We're going to be there. Hand in the Dirt podcast. 3 podcasts for one low price of around $60. And you're going to have access to exclusive merch. Access to
give me that hot sell, baby. I love it.
exclusive merch. We're not going to put it online. We're not going to have a mail order. No. If
You
want
mean
this
promotional giveaway items?
like I said,
IRS.
access to awesome hats, hoodies,
It's
etc.
the 10th. We owe you money on 5 days. I'll put a stamp on it.
I was going to say, did you cut the check?
No, first of all, we don't have checks. So I have to go. I have to pay money for the check from our truest people.
Okay, I got you.
And then I have to send. I have to go to the actual post office. I have to put it in an envelope. I have to print out the form.
Look at you, old school. I love it.
Thanks to the Kyocera. Thanks to Copiers Plus.
And thanks to Breeze Through for being the presenting sponsor of our podcast festival. Again, go get your tickets. And in the meantime, download the Breeze Through app, breezethrough.com. You can save money on gas at the various Breeze Through locations. Another housekeeping note, we're going to be at Longleaf Swine on Thursday. Drop my pen. Hold on a second. We will be at Longleaf on Thursday for that golf tournament that is taking place. We're going to be doing a 1 o'clock extravaganza while you can still take advantage of lunch at Longleaf. So check them out, longleafswine.com. Big thanks to Matt Davis over at State Farm. You can check them out online at insuregarden.com, theoginsurance.com, or call them directly at 919-779-8277.
Yeah, thanks to Matt and thanks to Douglas of Self-Storage Units in Garner.
Okay.
That's Douglas, Self-Storage Units in Garner. Your boy is headed to that certain town today to see some practice rounds.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to coach up Bryson DeChambeau. I don't think he probably wants me to coach him up, but there might be the potential for me to just be like, hey, man, it hurt when you did not win in Valhalla, which was a course absolutely made for you. So I can go one way or the other, right? Like, should I coach him up like, hey, you got this? Like, hey, remember when you won in Detroit, which was a Donald Ross course? Or remember last year when you played really well in Rochester, which was a Donald Ross course? I can go that way, or I can go the other way and just be like, sir, you're taking money out of my pocket.
Oh, that's what this is.
Please.
That's what this is
Pretty
about.
please.
That's what
with
this is
sugar
about.
on top.
Now,
win the U.S. Open for the second time in your life.
Again, call Matt. Save money on your home and auto.
What else did you think it was about?
919-779-8277. It's all about money, as always. You want now the reason why Joe wants to save money and he's going out to this golf course is because he's a stay ready all-star. I see you rocking your Rowback today.
I've got my Rowback today. Very comfortable. Like my hoodies. I like my golf shirts.
So we're going to open up the OG Sports phone today, but seeing the Rowback promo, and again, use that promo code OG20. Father's Day is coming up. Get on it right now.
Father's Day is Sunday.
It's Sunday. So get on it right now. Use the promo code OG20. And you can even say, look, it's not arriving before Father's Day, but you put it in the card. Like, look what I got you.
Here's a picture.
Here's a picture of what I got you. It's in the card.
Coupon.
It's arriving. That's what's important. You can take a screen grab of this, put it in a card, and see, hey, Pops, use the OG20 promo code like I did. But because it is U.S. Open week, and I know there's going to be some stay ready all-stars out there, which is what Rowback is all about. It's time. We're going to have our OG Sports phone today about Welcome to the League, but I want for Monday of next week.
I was like, what do we have over there that we can give away?
I mean, we just gave away.
We have an arts.
We do have an unopened dark arts. I want your stay ready moment from the U.S. Open.
No, I think you also want, like, are you Tiger Woods? Or do you have your Sunday reds? You
got your
Saturday
outfits all
light
figured
blue,
out. I
your
want to know.
first day orange.
I want to know. So call the OG Sports phone for that. 919-444-2211. I want your stay ready moment, your U.S. Open game plan, and we'll play those back on Monday. Anyway, big thanks to Roback. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. Jason Kidd had this brilliant game plan, Joe. He was gonna get Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to beef with each other. No, I'm the best. No, I'm the best. And instead, it's Drew Holiday who ends up being the best in game 2.
Jason Kidd, who once famously was fighting with his own teammate over Tony Braxton. That Jason Kidd. Okay.
The same Jason Kidd who knocked over a soda once.
Maybe
gamesmanship, baby. Gamesmanship.
Maybe he should have sent Tony Braxton to the Celtics locker room. I don't know.
Maybe the Celtics all along are just the better team, man.
They are. Speaking of almost and tickets that are just going up in flames, instead of choosing to focus on that, I'll just say this. I told you in the previous round, it's all about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving scoring 16 points is not going to get it done.
No.
I hate to be so simplistic, because for Dallas, their formula has to be more than just Luka, and Luka was spectacular, but he's obviously only one person. I will say this for Boston. I thought Porzingis, we didn't see him basically for 3 rounds. And it was easy to forget while they were kind of slogging through Indiana and they were slogging through Miami. You're kind of like, this doesn't look like the world champions. Because for the most part, I'm like most people, right? Like, I wasn't paying that much attention to the regular season. Well, why did they have the best record of the regular season? Well, they had this guy, Kristaps Porzingis, not as their top player, not as their second guy, but as their third banana.
Yep.
And that is an amazing third banana. Now, once you add that element to those 2 stars, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, now you add in that Derek White, to me, as I mentioned to my friend JC Zemble, I love Derek White, because now what banana is he? He's the 4th.
Yeah.
And on a lot of teams, he'd be a 2.
It's
you know what I mean? Like,
that's the point. That's the point that's coming to fruition right now between Boston and Dallas. In that if we're having a conversation, and this is what ends up happening with the NBA a lot, we get into the problem with the NBA or basketball in general is that we spend a lot of time talking about things that are not material to the court. We like getting into debates. Yeah. So it was a big 3. Well, now it's a big 2. Well, which big 2 is the best big 2 in the NBA? And look, going into the finals, Kyrie and Luka were the best
in the West, for sure.
The best.
The teams that they took out.
Now, I don't even know if they're just the best in the West. The way that they had been playing, the way Kyrie was locked in, you could make the argument that Luka and Kyrie were the best big 2 in the NBA. Hard stop. Okay. If you need somebody to get you a bucket, they got 2 dudes that are going to get you the bucket. However, lost in the Boston Celtics path to the NBA Finals, which has to be pointed out, was
a little
eased up because of a variety of injuries, right down to game 2, the drama with Luka and whether or not, because he was questionable going into the game. Now he ends up getting a triple-double, but
a little bit of a
a little bit. But there was a lot of like, oh, see, there it is. The Celtics are going to get, which nobody, at the end of the day, if they win the championship, nobody's going to remember any of that crap. They're only going to remember that the Celtics won the championship. But the funny thing is that Luka did ball out. Kyrie did not. And you're seeing that depth from Boston be the difference maker right now.
I'd be remiss not to mention Drew Holiday. They went and got Drew Holiday from Milwaukee for this experience, for his playoff experience. Sometimes you have to have a guy on your team who's done it before. And for all of Al Horford's experience and everything else, he hasn't done it before. So now you add Drew Holiday to this mix and you're seeing the results. Maybe Dallas wins 1 game in this series, honestly. Because they win that was
first game at home.
That felt like one of Dallas's best shots last night. Like that was the first quarter, first half, and then all of a sudden that thing got away from them in the fourth quarter because Derek White was spectacular.
Now, while this is going on, we still don't know what's going on with Dan Hurley and UConn. I find let's tell you what. Let's get to the news regarding Dan Hurley, which decision day I guess is today for Dan Hurley. And then we can get into my reckless speculation as to what I really think is going on.
Okay.
Here. So As we know, last week, Dan Hurley emerges as the front-running candidate for the Los Angeles Lakers. They prepared this massive offer to pry him out of UConn. We talked to Matt Norlander of CBS Sports last week. We were all in agreement. This really did come out of nowhere because based on all the actions from Dan Hurley, the roster that he's bringing back, all that kind of stuff, it would lead you to believe, yeah, man, Dan's going for the three-peat. That's what it's all about. So this comes out of nowhere. We're trying to process this. And it's also interesting that it's Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN who has a tie to the Hurley family.
Yeah.
This is
source stuff.
Like this is one of those, let's check all the boxes for people who might not know. Wojnarowski wrote a book about their dad, Miracle at St. Anthony. He's tied in with the Hurley family. It is what it is, right? And Wojnarowski has been the point person for all things Hurley. And there was a report that came out last night from Wojnarowski ahead of the NBA Finals game that got everybody going. And it looks like, according to Woj, they put together a compelling vision for the Lakers. And now he's back on the East Coast with his family to discuss. In the meantime, they snuck in a Billy Joel show. I don't know if you saw the images. They went to, I think, Billy's 149th show at Madison Square Garden.
Did somebody come and sing the songs for him, or was it still Billy?
It's still Billy Joel.
Oh, okay.
He can still sing. He can still sing. You're making a face like you haven't been to a Billy Joel show. I've been to several. He can still sing. Anyway, practice. There's a practice scheduled for today. There's no team meeting or anything like that. Various reports indicate that Hurley is 50-50 on this, that the offer he's getting is close to $100 million, but this is from Wojnarowski. Part of the allure for Hurley traces back to the changing landscape of NBA roster building under the collective bargaining agreement. Because of the roster building limitations imposed by the new second apron, the ability of big market teams to construct contending rosters by trading multiple draft picks and young players for a third star player has largely been eliminated. Gets back to the whole Big Two argument, right? Beyond the 17th overall pick in this month's draft, the Lakers have a young core of Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Max Christie. The management believes they can show even greater improvement under Hurley's coaching. That's his whole thing.
Yeah.
Strategy, development, XYZ. But Jeff Goodman at Field of 64 or Field of 68, apparently Goodman says that UConn has a new contract offer that would make him one of the top paid coaches in college basketball. He would be behind Bill Self and John Calipari, according to Goodman's reporting.
Yeah, I suspect this works out that Danny gets a pretty good raise.
Yes,
from UConn. I suspect if he was going to go, he would have gone. You don't draw this out, Coach K style.
Thank you.
I think if you're going to go, you go. If you're going to stay, you do this to try to get as much money as you can. Maybe, just maybe, the Knicks job comes open in a year or two, and that's more appealing to you and your family. You don't have to uproot and move everybody. I don't know if you know this, Joe, but it's pretty cost prohibitive, even in the millions, to live in Los Angeles because many people have millions in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So this isn't a case of,
You're dropping the bucket, man.
This isn't a case of Roy Williams going from Lawrence, Kansas to Chapel Hill being like, oh yeah, I'm going to go live at the Governor's Club. I'm going to be 5 minutes. This is sir.
Governor's Club. Roy's 3 hours away from Grandfather Mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this isn't a case of, yes, sir, I'm gonna find you someplace and your family right next to the Staples Center or whatever it's called now. It's that's still a lot of money. And that's something to think about. But I do think there might be, if he really wants to coach in the NBA, I think the Knicks would make more sense for him to scratch that itch in a year or two.
Something is off about this entire process dating back to last week. You referenced it. It's stretching out. It's playing out publicly. Yeah. It just so happens.
And he commented on it too, like, "Oh, this is compelling.
Yeah,
this is a compelling offer." And
my bullshit detector's going off here. All right, on a couple of different levels. One, it's all too perfectly timed ahead of NBA Finals games for this to be something that is like actually going to happen. And it goes all the way back to Thursday morning. It's now Monday, and we're still like, you took your time. You went to go see Billy Joel. You're chilling with the family. You heard it out. Wojnarowski's like almost live tweeting these things. So, like, is like Hurley texting him like, oh man, you wouldn't believe what they just offered me. Is he texting him during the meetings? And that is all to play out publicly to probably, yes, as you said, shake out a little bit more money from UConn. He's got a really incredible roster coming back. There's a very good chance of three-peating at UConn. This is a thing that can happen. So I don't see him going. to which then gets to reckless speculation mode. All too convenient with the little drops, right? I think the Lakers know they're not getting Dan Hurley.
Correct. I was going to say there's a Dan Hurley. You have to look for what's in it for Dan Hurley. He gets a good raise, and he gets
what's
people.
What's in it for the Lakers?
And now what's in it for the Lakers? They get to see, well, we did our due diligence. We tried to get the number 1 college coach. So now we're just going to hire JJ Redick because that's who LeBron
wants. That's exactly it. It's the classic case of showing to the people, the media, everything else.
Look at this effort.
Look, man, we tried. Like we had people tell us no. We just had people tell us no. And now they can lean on, well, all these people who told us no, we can now lean on the JJ experience, because that's the other thing. JJ's name has been floated out way too many times for it not to be a real thing, right down to the fact where he essentially on the podcast with LeBron James last week was intimating that, this is going to happen. And maybe it wasn't going over well, so the Lakers had to do a thing where like, shit, what can we do? Well, we can't go after Coach K again. That was 20 years ago. He's retired. He's helping us out. I know what we can do. Here's what we can do. So, look, I think I'm going to be right about this. JJ will still be the head coach. I don't think Dan Hurley's going to go, but we're recording this at 9:33 in the morning.
Always a chance to be wrong. He could surprise us, but it does feel like if he was going to go, he would go.
I go back to this Field of 68 blurb, okay? Because I subscribe to the newsletter.
Yeah.
And I go back to this little blurb right here as it relates to UConn and the roster and everything else. There are no meetings scheduled. UConn's just going about the business like they would. For what it's worth, practice was scheduled for today. No team meeting was set as of Sunday night. What are we waiting on? So anyway, that's just the way I'm going to look at that. So that's the latest on Dan Hurley. Again, with the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube at 2 o'clock when we premiere this thing, we recorded it at 9:34 in the morning. So who's to say? It could be dated. We could know. We could absolutely know what's happening by the time you're listening to this.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hale.
So we had corporate synergy. One of our corporate champions went to Happy and Hale, had the Almond Brothers. It did not last long.
Delicious.
So head on over to Happy and Hale. We got our home base, the North Hills location, another spot off of Six Forks, and a location out in Durham. At some point, we're going to be doing a show from a Happy and Hale, so that'll be a lot of fun. In the meantime, download the app, get that smoothie.
Get a smoothie when you download and sign up for an account. You get a free smoothie.
And more importantly, when you order online, you can have that thing ready to go. I understand. We are busy people running from one place to the other. You're also trying to eat right. And the beauty of Happy and Hale is that it's clean eating that is delicious. You're not skimping on anything. Really great ingredients, really great bowls, really great smoothies, and the like. So head on over to Happy and Hale. Speaking of the hockey break, still no word on what's going on with the Carolina Hurricanes. We don't have a general manager yet.
Speaking of delays.
Yeah.
Speaking of if something was going to happen, it would have happened, and we got ourselves a status quo situation. Yeah.
We really do have a status quo situation. So we don't have a new general manager or general manager in name for the Carolina Hurricanes. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet, I think it's Sportsnet, continues to drop nuggets related to the Canes and who might be going where, etc. The latest thing that I found interesting was that Jake Gensel is getting shopped. The rights to Jake Gensel are getting shopped. When they made the move for Jake Gensel, the way it was always portrayed, and I get it, Don Waddell's not here anymore, but the way it was portrayed is that they would not have made this deal unless they thought they had a chance at signing Gensel to a team-friendlier deal. But it looks like that thing's getting shopped around, according to 32 Thoughts.
And don't get excited. I mean, that's like a 5th round pick that you get. That's not a...
Which gets us to Marty Necas.
Now that is more value.
That is where the value is, and essentially the Canes are looking for serious talent in return for Marty Necas, not a 5th rounder, 3rd rounder, or whatever it is. Can they actually get that? I don't know. Is not having Don Waddell in the front office, working his connections, working against the Carolina Hurricanes? Again, I don't know. I don't know how Eric Tulsky is viewed in the league, other than being a very, very smart person who has been flirting with taking another job. But I don't know where Tulsky ranks in that sort of thing. Is Tom Dundon the one on the phone? I don't know. So I think a lot of that uncertainty is causing Canes fans to freak the hell out because they had this roster in a window. They like these players. They like this core. But it's looking like, if I could speculate into the future, it's looking like we're going to get a real overhaul going forward. So something to keep an eye on this offseason with the Carolina Hurricanes. But again, no news as of this morning. I do know that the Carolina Hurricanes would do themselves a hell of a lot of favors if they had a Russian goalie that elevates the way that we've seen Bobrovsky continue to elevate, that we've seen Shesterkin able to elevate. They've got a Russian goalie too. Can it get to that level? I don't know, man, because goalies are voodoo. But it's not lost on me that as good as Edmonton is, Bobrovsky was a bit of a wall in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, game 2 tonight. Florida looking to really seize control after winning game 1 in a way that was suffocating of Edmonton's offense. Let's see what McDavid's got, because I think it's going to take a little bit of magic from him to really make this thing work against Bobrovsky. Now, we saw Bobrovsky fall off in the finals last year.
We did, but
I don't think we ever saw him reach the heater status that he did against the Canes last year in this tournament. So maybe he's been pacing himself a little bit.
You had sent me an Athletic blurb. I guess they put together their top broadcast tandems or broadcasts in general. Yes. And what Mike Maniscalco, our friends Mike Maniscalco and Trip Tracy. What, 18th?
Yep.
Okay. These are some of the blurbs that you sent me because I don't have access to it. I know people still pine for 4. Are these just from fans? From like a survey?
Yeah, I think it is fans.
Okay.
People responding and ranking them. Yes.
Got it. This is one of the blurbs. I know people still pine for Forsland, and for good reason, because he meant so much to the area, and the way he was let go was just bad, wrote another. But it's time to give Mike Maniscalco his due. He and Tripp have insanely good chemistry. I would agree with that.
Yep.
Let's see. There could be no doubt the Hurricanes fans admire Maniscalco's improvement and are in love with Tracy's vibe, memory, and feel for the big moment. Trip Tracy is him, wrote one respondent. So, but yeah, the results, John Forsland still looms large in the minds of Hurricanes fans all these years. Noting that Maniscalco has improved, they still kind of miss Forsland. It is what it is, but our current team has grown. This is from another blurb, has grown tremendously and has gelled into a first-class broadcast crew. Yes, I would agree with all those things that were said about 18. Mike and Tripp.
Yeah, and then, of course, John was number 2 with Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, look, John is a pros pro. Yeah. John has always been a pros pro, and he was very much tied to the Carolina Hurricanes brand, not just because of longevity, but because he also represented the organization very, very well.
Yeah.
Was there some sort of roundtable? John was hosting it. Was there some other kind of sports event? John Forsland was probably the MC for it. He did an excellent job and represented the team well. But so does Mike Maniscalco, and so does Trip Tracy. And yeah, Mike got that job in a weird situation and also has to replace a very, very popular person. There's going to be some growing pains, but Mike has done an excellent job with that broadcast. And again, the one thing that I always found funny, this is the only thing I'll say. I always had confidence that Mike Maniscalco was going to be good at the job. Mm-hmm. Clearly, that's the case. What I found funny were people that didn't realize Trip Tracy was like good, if that makes sense. Or there's more depth to Trip Tracy. And all I can say to that is Trip's always been that guy. Trip's always had depth. It's just that when you are in a particular tandem, you play off each other in different ways. And with John, Trip added a lot more color, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think with Trip, he's worked really hard at it, number one. But I also think you have a 10,000 hour rule there too, man. I mean, well, you talk about being here from the beginning. Trip's been here from the beginning.
From the jump. But my point here is in all the years that I've talked to John Forsland is the very definition of locked in. Mm-hmm. I can ask John, hey man, this Star Wars reference. It's like, I've never seen Star Wars before, Joe. Stop it. I'm like, okay, fine. Mike is not that.
Right.
Mike is locked in, but Mike is also locked in with like, you need a movie quote. Dude's going to just right off the top of his head have it. He gets mad at me from time to time where he's like, what do you mean you don't get that reference? I'm like, dude, I got so much space in my brain. That one just escaped. He's like, oh man, classic, whatever. So Mike can actually be a little bit more of a character, drop those nuggets, kind of those types of things. And he also knows when to play the straight man to Trip. John was always a straight man.
Yeah.
So I think Trip also kind of, to help Mike out, flexed more of his knowledge when it was needed. When it was needed. Not that he didn't have it. It's just what was needed. You saw that in the early go, and now they've gelled into a good crew. So I'm not surprised that they get a lot of love. They should get a lot of love. So that was good to see. One other hockey note. So the Washington Capitals bought the website Cap Friendly.
Okay.
This is a
And
website.
it's not like a blog writing about the capitals.
No. Cap Friendly is a website that a lot of us have come to use and get used to when we're trying to figure out contract stuff.
Okay.
Apparently, what I did not realize about Cap Friendly, it's not some sort of like Ken Palm situation. NHL teams were actually using Cap Friendly and some of their API calls to help their analytics, help their situations. I guess the Capitals were like, you know what? We're just going to buy the whole thing, and they're going to shut the site down. Which
so you got Sport Track or
I hope something. Yeah, I was going to say I hope something else comes in its place. But Cap Friendly was something that a lot of people were using. Unfortunately, that is not going to be the case going forward. Get a lot of love from the G. I see the Hometown Realty sign, promoting the blessings as you go down 70 on my way down to the Polar Ice House. But they go beyond just the G. Hometown Realty is all across the state, and you can use Hometown Realty to buy and sell with confidence. Check them out online at myhtr.com, Joe.
Always brings a smile to my face. You see the billboards in Garner or on 70. Shouts to Palmer. She graduated from Cleveland. We went to her graduation party. We left. We ended up getting some food at an Italian place off of 50 there. And on the screen in the local restaurant is this ad for Hometown Realty.
Hey,
I was like, you know what? These people support the community in so many different ways. It's amazing. And there's a reason, because they're really good at what they do. And you can buy and sell with confidence. Just go with myhtr.com. That's Hometown Realty. 6 locations from here to the coast, more than 250 agents. Again, they know what they're doing. Buy and sell with confidence. It's myhtr.com.
Also, big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer. Let's say you bought that house. You can take it to closing. You sold a house. Take it to closing with Whitaker and Hamer. Check them out online at wh.lawyer. I had a moment of Gilio panic when I was downtown. I had to almost make a move around a car that didn't know where it was going on Fayetteville Street. Then I stopped myself because
don't do that.
I didn't want to get like a reckless driving charge.
That's what happened to me.
But if I did, Whitaker and Hamer
can help you out. wh.lawyer.
Big thanks to Butcher's Market as well. Check them out, butchersmarkets.com. Father's Day is right around the corner. You're looking for a last minute thing. Hey, steak of the month. It's there for you. Or just get them a gift card. And that way they can go and just get whatever meats they want.
And I hit up Lake Boone on Saturday. Got some flank steaks. Got some sweet potatoes. Have you seen the sweet potatoes?
Yes.
Man,
I have. If you are into sweet,
man,
not everybody in the Ovius house is into sweet potatoes.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of shy away from them. I'm a sucker for sweet potato fries, man.
Good stuff. Not a fry. They're like cubed up.
They're cubed up, though.
Saute them and they're nice. Real nice. And of course, I got the hot dogs. I can't stay away from the hot dogs. They're too good.
Yeah, man. You do you. In the immortal words of our friend Darren Gann of Panthers.com, Cam Newton makes people stupid, but he has been surpassed by Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark now makes people stupid. The drama coming out of the weekend, if you want to call it drama, is the fact that she is not on the USA basketball team for this upcoming Olympics. Did not make the cut.
Okay.
Christine Brennan of USA Today was all over this. And this was the blurb that was interesting and the blurb that, as she said, will be focused on in her reporting. I can't tell you how knowledgeable these sources are. Impeccable. And this is the blurb. 2 sources, both longtime U.S. basketball veterans with decades of experience in the women's game, told USA Today Sports on Friday that concern over how Clark's millions of fans would react to what would likely be limited playing time on a stacked roster was a factor in the decision-making. If true, that would be an extraordinary admission of the tension that this multi-million-dollar sensation who signs autographs for dozens of children before and after every game has caused for the old guard of women's basketball. The 2 people spoke on condition of anonymity because of the sensitivity of the matter. This, of course, set people off. Dan Wolkin of USA Today. Do the people who run U.S. Olympic women's basketball team actually care about women's basketball? It's a legit question. What a dumb decision. I think it was from, who do we got? I'm scrolling a bunch of, from Michael McCarthy, who covers the business of TV and sports and everything else. Leaving Caitlin Clark off the Olympic team is a terrible decision for NBC Sports, which is paying billions for U.S. TV rights. She would have absolutely supercharged Olympic TV audiences the way that she did in college and now in the pros. Short-sighted doesn't begin to describe the decision. And I think that right there highlights for me the tension that is taking place with Caitlin Clark. Real quick about the decision based on Christine Brennan's reporting that they didn't want to bring her on because they're worried about how fans are going to react. If that's the real reason why, that is weak shit. That's weak shit.
I disagree.
That you cannot absorb. No, what I'm saying is you cannot absorb the criticisms of her not playing a lot as if the U.S. women's team hasn't been dominating in the Olympic fields. And if she gets minutes, she gets minutes. And people would want to see it. But if you cannot absorb what other people would think, that is a lack of leadership, in my opinion.
Couple of things here. And I'm remiss that I didn't send you the Gino Auriemma clip from Dan Patrick.
Yeah, he was on with Dan Patrick last week.
I thought he was on point with how he said the people who are fans of Caitlin Clark severely underestimated the quality of the WNBA and the players that came before her.
Yes.
And he was not critical of her. He was just saying she needs to elevate her game. And which is a point that I've been making as well. And by the way, in her last game, she played her best game.
She's been good.
So she's learning. And I think part of this, I also think a big part of this, she's been grinding since the beginning of the Iowa season. She hasn't had a break. I think you'll see a different player next year when she's fresh and ready to kind of take on all of the challenges that she knows. But here's the truth. And the person who said, NBC paid billions, that's an NBC problem. And also NBC can pound salt as far as I'm concerned. The Olympics are a competition. The USA basketball's job is to win the tournament. USA's basketball's job is not to sell tickets. It's not to improve ratings. It's to win the competition. I believe, as Christine Brennan is reporting here, I do believe it's not necessarily about the fans. It's about how do the players themselves react to a person that's put on their roster, right? And now, let's just say you're tested and you don't win a game or you struggle, and all of these people are like, well, why don't you put Caitlin Clark in?
Yeah.
We saw this in real life. Speaking of men's basketball, in 2004, LeBron James was young. And Larry Brown, if you know anything about Larry Brown, doesn't exactly love young players and didn't want to turn that team over to that young set with LeBron and Carmelo, who would go on to become stars in their own rights, obviously in USA basketball. So we've seen this before. USA in 2004.
Christian Laettner.
Well, Christian Laettner was a mascot. And I mean, and that's essentially, do you want Caitlin Clark to be a mascot who doesn't play? Christian Laettner was also a favorite to Mike Krzyzewski, who was an assistant coach on that team.
Yes.
So I think you have to look at this and go, this is a competition that they're trying to win. If Caitlin Clark is not one of the 12 best players in this country, and that maybe that's debatable, right? Maybe, but I don't think so at this point because of the way that she has struggled to adjust.
Yes.
And again, that exhaustion, I think you are inviting more disaster than you are by putting her at the end of the bench and potentially struggling and people clamoring and going, well, why isn't she playing? Because as Gino pointed out, those fans don't understand the dynamic or the reality of the WNBA. That's from the distance.
Sure.
From the inside, now we've already seen these veteran players, starting with Diana Taurasi, who you could say was petty, and Gino pointed this out. He's like, people were mad at Diana D when she made these points about how Caitlin Clark's about to get a rude awakening. Remember, she made this during the Final Four, but Diana Taurasi on one of the ESPN, side broadcasts had said, Caitlin Clark's going to get to the WNBA and struggle because it's a different game. It's more physical, and that's not the type of player that she is. Okay. I would encourage you to go find the Gino Auriemma interview. So Diana Taurasi is part of that old guard that is sitting here telling you, like, now all of a sudden, if you bring Caitlin Clark into those practices, I mean, you thought the dream team beat up on those college kids. What do you think they would do to her?
Yeah,
they would not. It would not be a welcome situation. It would not be a healthy situation where again, your primary motivation should be to win the competition.
Couple things about this. The first one, and I don't think it's been said enough, is that Caitlin Clark is going to be fine. Okay. people are basically projecting on behalf of Caitlin Clark when all she has done.
Oh, she's putting her head down and she's going to work.
And she's going, because that's who she is.
Yeah.
It's not a fake thing,
right?
You know, because if it was a fake thing, she would actually be participating in a lot of the other ancillary things that we see that come with basketball or sports, right? And this is not specific to the WNBA, but, you know, Cameron Brink has become a household name, not just because she's good, but because she's also killing it on the fashion walk, all right? But that's not specific to the WNBA. We see this with the NBA. We see this with the NFL. We see this in the NHL. You can elevate yourself with all the ancillary stuff. Caitlin Clark does not seem interested in that at all. She's almost like Mike Trout-like. Like, I'm just here to ball. That's what she wants to do. So she's going to be fine. And I'm sure this will all become part of her story arc. You know, she was left off the Olympic team. She's going to go back to work. I saw one quote that came from the coach saying, "Oh, you woke up the monster." Like, okay, cool. If that's part of her arc, that's part of her arc. The reason why I say it's a lack of leadership is that these are the types of things that you should have been prepared for going forward. You should have known that this was such a phenomenon with Caitlin Clark that you should be able to understand and absorb what is going on with her. Because this is mostly an online creation. And you know how I feel at this day and age, how we go about online creations. This is, when it comes to Caitlin Clark, purely online fervor. Purely online fervor. That when once you step outside and you touch grass, nobody is this worked up about Caitlin Clark and whether she's being dissed or not represented right. All that stuff is all online, as a lot of people are virtue signaling. That's how I see a lot of this playing out. And it's actually brought out the worst possible tendency in me into cynically look at these types of things. Over the last couple of weeks when the Caitlin Clark discourse was taking place, I was like, you know what? People are trying to find the way to talk about women's college basketball in a way they've never talked about women's college basketball before. Welcome to the hot take industrial complex. It is what it is. It comes with the territory, whatever. And I understand why people who've been around the WNBA for a long time or paying attention to women's college basketball were annoyed in how this was being discussed. But now I've gone completely over on the side of the people who've been around women's college basketball and the WNBA for a very long time. In that, people, the online people, have decided Caitlin Clark is the face of women's college basketball. They've decided it. You could go all the way back to the LSU Iowa championship game 2 years ago, where they lost, and yet people wanted to make the argument,
she should go to the White House.
Both teams should go to the White House for what they did for women's college basketball. On what planet would we ever do that? And this dismissive, almost pandering, paternalistic attitude that people started taking towards women's college basketball, I think has hit a fever pitch this year in the way that those same people that said dumb shit like, "Oh, bring Caitlin Clark to the White House," even though she lost, has now come to this point. Because we would never talk about any other sport the way we talk about Caitlin Clark. Any other sport, any other rookie. Yeah, you brought up the LeBron James thing, but not like this.
No.
LeBron was not like automatically the face.
Like, why is Larry Brown not playing this guy?
That's
and Larry
all that
Brown
was
kind of like, well, we got a bunch of older guys who have been through this thing and done this thing.
Also, there was a difference in that 2004 squad than where we are with women's college with women's basketball too. You got to remember the women's Olympic team dominates.
Yeah.
At that time, with on the men's side of things, there's a reason why Coach K ended up being the coach of the USA team
that year. Yeah.
Okay. After that
loss. Yeah.
They were going through some shit. All right. So they're completely different things. I think that's probably the part that bothers me the most. But Caitlin Clark's just getting another welcome to the league moment, which, Joe, brings us to the OG Sports Phone, where I asked people to give us their welcome to the league moment
in their particular profession.
Their particular profession, in their industry. You can call the OG Sports Phone at 919-444-2211. I already put the prompt out for next week. I want your stay ready moment. I want to know your outfits. Did you bring the soft spikes to the U.S. Open? Did Tiger Woods lock eyes with you? And he went, hey, if this guy goes down.
Did you bring your GPS just in case?
Just in case.
Hey, Tiger, you're 165 to the pin.
So call 919-444-2211. All right, here's our first OG Sports Phone welcome to the league moment.
Hey, guys, it's Paul from Durham. So this is my welcome to the league moment. So I used to be full-time into sports broadcasting. I don't do it full-time anymore, but used to be full-time. And my first internship in college is between my junior and senior year of college, I took a $250 a week broadcast internship at a company called Vista World Link in beautiful Dania Beach, Florida, just outside Fort Lauderdale. I'm sure you know where that is, obvious. So when I get down there, they told me that I was going to run replay for that, maybe even dabble in producing, whatever. I get down there and they had this little office called their Digital Media Center, and in that they categorize melts. Now, if you don't know what a melt is in broadcast, it's basically all of the plays from a game and every single camera angle of that play so that you can edit it later. They were 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks behind on melts, on categorizing melts. And so me and the guy that they hired along with me as interns for the summer, we were put down in that digital media center right next to all the computer racks. And for the first 4 weeks of that internship, 8 hours a day, we were sitting in that little digital media center logging melts. It's the worst thing I've ever had to do, and I really hope I never have to do it again. That was my welcome to the league moment, boys. Peace.
Man, let me tell you, you grow up, you want to work in the business,
Glamour.
and you're thinking, oh man, I get to go to these events, I get to check things out, and then what you come to find out is, well, twofold, right? Like I'm like, oh, I get to go to the ACC tournament. No, actually, you don't. You're going to be back here making sure the board's being run properly. Oh, okay. I get to go to the Final Four, right? No, we're just sending gold. I'm sorry, you're going to be back here, chained to the board, making sure everything's running right. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah, it's not that glamorous. And when you actually do get to go to those types of events, you're thinking, oh man, I'm finally at this event. This is amazing. Yeah, so about that, you're going to be in like a closet broadcasting from about 10 a.m. until midnight. Cool? Oh, okay. Maybe I'll see some basketball. There's some real moments, man. Real moments. Not that glamorous, Joe. Not that glamorous. All right, what do we have next on the OG Sports phone?
Gentlemen, Luke and Durham here. Just wanted to call and let you guys know about my welcome to the industry moment. So I work in politics, and years upon years ago, I was doing my first internship up on the Hill, and was literally walking down the halls one day and ran into former senator from Arizona, Jeff Flake. And when I say ran into, I trucked his ass accidentally. I was looking at my phone, walking outside the Capitol, and he was walking with staff, and I didn't look up, and I just straight up shoulder checked him. It was embarrassing as can be. His staff thought it was hysterical. I was petrified. It's like 3 months into the job, and just realized then and there, I was like, oh God, it's a different league. So love the pod. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, at that point, you're probably reminded. You're remembered as the guy who ran into the senator. Yeah, that's all you're ever going to be. Yeah, that's a little bit on the embarrassing side. All right, next on the welcome to the industry moments.
Hey y'all, my welcome to the league moment. I'm no longer in the food and beverage industry, but I worked everywhere from dishwasher to manager, bartender in restaurants. But this story is about my first day as a server. I was working at a restaurant on Hilton Head Island. Not super fancy, but not McDonald's. And I had a table of 4 very well-dressed people. I was bringing back their order from the bar, 4 glasses of red wine, which I proceeded to dump in the lap of one of the ladies sitting at the table who was wearing all white. Very first table, very first day as a server. Luckily, I had a great manager who smoothed things over. But boy, that was not a great start to that career. That's the story. Cheers.
That's some riz on the manager, right?
Oh, what, to negotiate
To
out of
get
that
out
one?
of that one?
Yeah, man.
Shoosh.
That is money.
Shoosh.
All right, now we got a few of them. The ones I thought those were the more amusing ones that we got. Although this last one that I'm going to play is incomplete
Ooh.
and it's bothering me.
Okay.
Yeah, so responding to the question about being able to, assimilate to the workplace, I joined a company and was invited to a race by some of my colleagues, right? Being the new guy, they took me up there, took me in the box seat, allowed me to meet everyone, and in the box was, people way above my pay grade, CEO and above. And some of my coworkers coaxed me into talking to one of the girls in the box. And being that I was a low-level plebe, I decided to make up a fake.
Fake what? A fake name?
Oh.
How did the rest of it go?
Cliffhanger.
I was left on a cliffhanger. So I texted the number back. I'm like, hey, man, your message cut off for whatever reason. I don't know if you face muted yourself. I don't know what happened, but I got to know what happened the rest of the time in the box. I want to know.
Yeah.
Please tell me. Anyway, so call the sports phone, 919-444-2211. And of course, we need another prompt for next Monday, your stay ready moment from the U.S. Open. How'd you get ready? Did something happen? Did you check your Garmin GPS? Did you bring your little rangefinder itself? That's what I want to know when you're at the U.S. Open. What was your welcome to the league moment in the paper business, Joe?
I'm sure there's been more than one. They're all kind of tied together.
Okay.
When I was at Technician, that was the end of the Les Robinson tenure, right? And I remember before his last season, so these are related, right? So before his last season, which would have been 96, he invited us over to practice and came over, and he thought, so at the time, Michael Biesecker, who now works for the Associated Press, was the person on our editorial board and basically wrote that NC State needs to fire Les Robinson. They need to fire him like right now, and had all the the stats and the numbers saying like this is the worst NC State basketball's ever been. Blah 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 blah. So Les, before the season started, invited me and I think it was Mike Preston or Matt Lale, one of the two, over to Reynolds Coliseum. That's where they played. And Les is sitting here telling me how smart I am and how great I am and how much he respects me. And and I know that you had to write what you had to write and it was well researched. And I'm like, Les, I did not write that you should be fine. That wasn't me. It was me. He was like, that wasn't you. He's like, well, there was no name on it. I just assumed it was yours. I'm like, now I'm explaining how newspaper business works to Les as a college junior. And I'm like, no, man. I'm like, that wasn't me. And he was like, oh, good. So, all right. Now the season goes, and obviously he gets replaced that year. He decides to retire, and then he becomes, starts working for NC State in the athletic department, eventually becomes the AD. So the person who replaced Les Robinson was Herb Sendek. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's hard to believe, I know, but when I was a senior in college, there were people who covered NC State from Winston-Salem, from Greensboro, from Durham, from Fayetteville.
It was a different time, folks.
Like there were a lot of beat writers, a lot. Charlotte. So when you went to a game, like it wasn't like today where there are no beat writers, there are no regulars. There's just people who basically work for fan sites. Like it's not like that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm fresh Jersey Joe. Okay. So you think I ask questions now? Woo! Out of the gate, your boy had a lot of questions. Like there were some purpose pitches thrown when I was a Technician. One of the people who regularly covered NC State in the area was Barry Jacobs at the New York Times for the New York Times.
For the New York Times.
Yes. Right. Now, keep in mind, I'm from New Jersey, and I'm reading Barry Jacobs in the New York Times. Like, oh man, this is like a big thrill for me. Mm-hmm. And Barry's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Herb's hired. Okay, they have a press conference, and he's 33. He's doing his due diligence of introducing himself to all of the people who regularly cover the team. And so he gets to me, and Barry happens to be standing next to me, and I introduce myself, and Barry goes, "This is Joe Giglio." This is the New York Times guy saying this. This is Joe Giglio. He goes, "You are not going to like him." And I look at him, and I'm like, "What?" He goes, "He's going to ask you a lot of questions." He's like, "But he's going to ask you a lot of good questions." He goes, "They'll be tough sometimes."
Yeah.
He's like, "But he'll ask you good questions." And I said, that's still one of the biggest compliments I've ever received in my life, considering I was 21 years old and it was from the guy at the New York Times. And now Herb Sendek's looking at me like who the hell is this kid?
Jeez. That's
So yeah, I had less confuse me for somebody who wanted him to be fired, and then I had the New York Times guy being like, "You're not going to like this kid, but you're not going to like every question he asks, but he's going to ask you fair questions."
I have two quick welcome to the league moments for what I've done. The first one was the first time I ever hosted a show solo.
Okay, so this would be the Mojo. Or?
No. This was on a Saturday morning at like 7:00 in the morning.
Okay.
So no, this was Chris Clark was out, so it was actually at 9:00 in the morning. So Chris used to do a show called Sports Saturday, very original, and it would go from like 9 to noon, I think was the time. So Chris was out, and I've been kind of like angling myself to be like, oh, okay, I can host, I can fill in, because I'm like, how hard can it be? You just gotta talk for 3 hours. I know my shit, right? No. So, by now, folks who watch on the YouTube, they can see my notes. Sometimes the notes aren't very robust. Sometimes they're just things that I write
here's
down.
Here's the topic, here's our ads. Yeah.
Or things that I write down to make sure it triggers yes, I had this thought. Let me get to it, because it's all up here, much to my detriment sometimes. Now that I get older. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to script out the first segment. Because, in radio, you got to repeat yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to script out the first segment, and I'll do it again like at 11:00. So I write, man. I'm typing. I'm not writing. I'm all typing it out. I'm typing it out. I had like 5 pages, 6 pages printed out.
On the Kyocera, I hope.
Yes. So I print it all out. Show's ready. Show starts. Hey, I'm Joe Ovius filling in for Chris Clark. It's 8:50 The Buzz. Blah 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 blah. Here's the numbers. Call up thinking, I'm going to hit this topic. Phone lines are going to light up. Easy peasy for the rest of the hour.
People will be so compelled.
So I get through all my notes. I thought I nailed it. Punch the numbers. 860. Blah 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 blah. And the phone is right there, so you're going to see if it's lighting up or not. And nothing's lighting up. Not a single thing. And I still had 5 minutes to go before the commercial break. I got through all the notes. I'm like, shit. So that was a lesson learned. You'll go through. You think you could do it for an hour? Nah, barely do it for 10 minutes. Second quick story, and this is actually this is something that ended up being true, but it's a welcome to the league moment for a lot of folks because it applies. So we had a consultant back in, mid 2000s. I don't know the exact year. The consultant's name was Joe Wade Formicola. For those who might not know who Joe Wade Formicola is, he's actually a very well established, he's no longer with us, but he was a very established, successful radio guy.
Okay.
All right. So he was in between things, and I guess there was some sort of favor called, and he was brought in to kind of kick us in the ass, which is what consultants do.
Yeah. Now this is while you're with Adam.
This is when I was just a producer.
Oh,
okay. No. Yeah, it was when we had transitioned over to the morning when the IMUS thing blew up, and I was kind of like in a weird hybrid, like producer / host type situation. I was still young.
That's never happened before.
No, never happened. Never. I was very, very young, and Joe Wade basically, if I could summarize this conversation, it was, Adam, you've lived a life. You've worked multiple markets, you're divorced, you've got this, you have this relatable stuff, right? Joe hasn't lived shit. What's he done? And I'm like, what is that? What is happening?
What did I do?
What did I do? But he was right. I was young and full of shit. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I thought I had it all figured out. Yeah, I'm just married. I don't have kids yet. Everything's living the life. He was right. I do not have the life experience to be quote unquote relatable. He was right. And it did not click with me until later in life when I got older and I'm here and I'm like,
that's what he was talking about.
That's what he was talking about.
I see, says the blind man.
And somewhere Joe Wade is smiling in heaven going, you little know nothing shit.
I told you.
I told you. So yeah, that was another quick welcome to the league moment. R.I.P. Joe Wade Formicola.
radio name would have been?
I think it was just Joe Wade Formicola.
Really?
When it's Joe
Not
Wade, when you have 3 names,
not
dude.
Joey Wade's or Joey Forms or Joey FM. Or
One of you want to talk about how radio used to be back in the day? Another quick Joe Wade Formicola story. The dude said, "You got the T's. It's all about the T's."
Yeah.
In radio,
Yeah.
you got to nail the T's. I was like, okay, cool. Work on your T's. At first, I'm like, whatever. But he was right. Got to work on those T's.
I feel like you would have been Joe Osborne. That would have been your radio name.
Maybe. So he told this story. I guess he was working up in Detroit at the time, and he was hosting some talk show, I think it was. And he would just go, "Coming up, Bill Clinton." He didn't have Bill Clinton. He didn't have it. He's like, "Coming up, Bill Clinton." We're like, "Oh shit, Bill Clinton's coming on." He's like,
such a radio.
No, he's like, you can only do it so often. You can only do it so often. And hey, if Bill Clinton doesn't call, hey, something came up.
Oh.
He's the president. Right? That was his excuse. He's the president. You know, he was supposed to come on, but some incident occurred. He's got to handle it. Maybe next time. Maybe we'll get him next week, right? But he was right. He's like, you can only pull that trick once or twice. But man, that's a hell of a tease. I was like, yeah, shit, that is a hell of a tease. Anyway, no teasing here. Bugsbite.com, Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. We don't have to be like, oh, you never know. No, you'll know. You'll know. They're going to take care of business with Bugsbite.com, Mosquito Authority, and Pest Authority. I get the mosquito treatments. They can take care of the inside of your house as well. You can bundle and save. The other important thing about radio teases is the payoff, right?
Yeah.
So you will talk up the coffee bourbon ice cream, 2 Roosters. Like, oh my God, you gotta try this. You gotta try this. That's the tease. That's the sell.
But there has
to be a payoff. And I would say that 2 Roosters every single time. Payoff hits, does it not?
Went yesterday, got the frosted animal cracker.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Frosted. You love an animal cracker.
I do love an animal cracker.
Interesting.
Delicious. It was
right.
Like maybe, I don't know. Do you think I made the right choice when you walk in and there's like a little 3-year-old girl and she's eating the pink frosted animal cracker ice cream? And then you get the same thing and you're like, I'll have what she's had. I don't know, man. It's delicious.
Also, if you want Jared, who owns 2 Roosters, to get a tattoo, his first ever, go to their Instagram page and say he needs to get a tattoo. Maybe it's the logo. Maybe it's an OG logo, an OG flag.
I'm going to need to, we'll have a little meeting right here. I'm going to need to talk a little bit with Jared. I saw pictures in the Person Street establishment of like where, you can get like 2 Roosters.
Yeah.
And like they're basically the people who support them.
Oh, were you not there?
I saw a certain mascot, but I did not see the OG.
Oh, we're going to have to talk to him about that. We're going to have to talk to him about that.
I want some love.
In the meantime, go to 2roosters.com. Also, big thanks to Nature's Relief. Nature's Relief Hemp Store.
I bought you your soda this morning.
I know. I'm excited about that. I don't know if I'm going to do it today. Maybe later in the week I'll do it.
Okay.
I'm not quite there yet.
You don't need a chiller yet.
No, not yet. Maybe when we get to Wednesday on a slow news day.
There we go.
Maybe I'll drink that. I'll drink that soda.
So I'll have to do the whole show.
You'll
Coming
be
up,
fine.
Bill Clinton.
So head on over to naturesreliefhempstore.com. I know this might sound silly, but I think what often happens, and I've experienced this with talking to my friends who are like, hey, what's this about? XYZ. I said, look, I can only tell you so much. Head on over to the store where they can answer a lot more questions. There's an intimidation factor when it comes to getting into something like this. You've heard a lot about the Cali sober lifestyle. All right. You want to see what that's about? Well, naturesreliefhempstore.com. I can say this when it comes to those kind of sodas and whatnot and the 5 flowers and everything else. I don't wake up with a hangover.
Right.
Which is a bonus. So head on over to naturesreliefhempstore.com. That's RELEAF.com. So why are they having the U.S. Open when we all know that Scottie Scheffler is going to win it, Joe?
I actually don't think he's going to win it.
No?
I don't.
He's winning everything.
He really is.
He's on a heater right now.
He's amazing.
So why wouldn't he win the U.S. Open?
Here's the basic premise. Okay. So the Donald Ross course, your number one challenge is the green and your ability to putt And also shout out to Scotty McCreary's sources who said that the greens at Pinehurst number 2 are rolling at 15 on the stimp meter. That's insane. Okay. If the greens are the number 1 defense, which they are with a Ross course, I think we can all accept that. Then the one weakness in Scotty Scheffler's game is his putting. That's the one weakness he has. The reason he's been winning so many tournaments this year is because he went from a last on the tour putter to middle of the road putter. And because his approach shots are so good that just being middle of the road as a putter has helped him win as many times this year on the tour as he has. I refuse to believe that the number 1 challenge on Donald Ross's gem, on his diamond, on his masterpiece, on his Mona Lisa, on his Sistine Chapel will be won by a guy who really can't putt. It's that simple. Maybe even oversimplified. Because the truth of the matter is he's the best driver and the best ball striker on the tour too.
Well, again, this is where I'm going to go in golf novice here. Isn't the whole point of Pinehurst number 2? It's very, very easy tee to green with the waist areas and
more
things like that.
Palatable.
Yes.
Because also as a US Open setup, there's not a lot of rough as we typically see on a US Open track.
And the reason for that is because the first time it was at Pinehurst, they tried to make that track something that it wasn't, not within the climate of the Sandhills.
Yes.
Okay. Not how it was originally intended as a course design, right? So when they brought it back, 2014?
It's been 3 times now.
It's 3 times now.
This is the 4th.
So okay. Was it 14 the last time?
14 was the last time. That's where Martin Keimer went 65-65 and literally was 8 shots clear of the field.
Right.
The second best player was at -1. He won at -9.
14 was the first time it was back to its natural area, right?
Correct.
And there was some controversy around that.
Sure. Because they were like, oh, it's going to be easy. It's going to be easy.
It wasn't. Well, why wasn't it easy?
It was easy for one guy.
Yeah, it was easy for
That
one
was
guy.
it.
But why is it ultimately not easy?
The greens.
The greens.
The greens.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, you could actually see Scotty Scheffler pull a Tiger Woods this week and not even use his driver. Like,
possible.
It's that type of rollout that you're going to get.
Gotcha.
It's hot. There's no rain in the forecast.
No.
It's hot. It's hotter than the surface of the sun. It's going to be crazy down there. I think there's a push and pull to the universe. And after seeing Valhalla go super low, I would not be surprised if the winner this week was at -2, -3 max.
Head on over to DraftKings. You can see all this action on DraftKings getting into the U.S. Open. And new users for the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the promo code OG24 when you download and sign up. Use that promo code OG24, and new customers will get $150 in bonus bets when they bet $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in various states, you can check out their websites as well. But in the meantime, you can bet $5 now and get $150 in bonus bets at DraftKings.com right now. They've got the parlays. They've got single game parlays for like the NBA Finals. DraftKings is the official sports betting partner and official sports betting partner of the NBA. So just go on over to the DraftKings app. Do you have any other golfers to keep an eye on, by the way?
I mean, I have a DeChambeau ticket. I have a bunch of tickets this week. I have an embarrassing number of tickets for this tournament.
Okay.
I don't think I have the winner either.
Oh,
if that makes any sense. I don't know who's going to win.
You have guys like finishing and whatever.
No. I have to win, and I suspect they'll all play well because of the setup. I think this is a grinder. Okay. And again, last week was a grinder too at the Memorial. And who was your winner?
Right.
Scotty Scheffler.
So call 877-18-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus, North Carolina only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms. Again, use that promo code OG24. Let's get out of here on some Hey Joe, brought to you by Crank Arm Brewing. Check them out online at crankarmbrewing.com. Joe and I are going to be, well, I know I'll be at the Revive and Thrive
I'll be there tonight.
Chat.
Yeah.
That's 7 o'clock tonight. If you're hearing this in the middle of the morning, late afternoon, you're curious about what's going on in downtown Raleigh, how they want to kind of change the narratives, that's taking place tonight at crankarmbrewing.com. We're going to try to do something similar in the future. We got to talk to Adam about our grill and chill for one of these shows. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, go buy their beer. Go to crankarmbrewing.com. Let's go to Twitter, shall we? From Robin's Nest, spotted along Yankee Stadium left field line. The Bronx is all about that Go ACC life. Yes, there is that weird relationship with Yankee Stadium, with the Yes Network, and their relationship with the ACC. And I guess part of the signage, the availability, the marketing is that you get to see the ACC teams, which they have to update, by the way, because this is outdated. It doesn't have Cal, does not have Stanford, does not have SMU.
Smoo.
Need that in there.
My Mustangs.
Now, I don't know if anybody who goes to a Yankees game sees this and says, you know what? I would really like to watch some college lacrosse on the ACC network today. I don't know if that's how that works, but we'll see. From Nature Boy NC, hey Joe, it's not bluegrass, but it's close enough. Y'all. Yo, why you do this to me? All right, let's see what we got here. This is What If Another One Bites the Dust by Queen was a little bit more country.
What if Another One Bites the Dust by Queen was a little more country? Steve walks wearily down the street with his brim pulled way down low. Ain't no sound by the sound of his feet. Another one bites the dust, and another one gone, and another one gone, another one bites the dust.
Why?
I'm going to take out the primary feature of one of the most greatest songs of all time, the bass line. I'm just going to take it out. Think how much better it would be if we took out the best part of the song.
With just a strummy, basic ass guitar. This just sounds deeper meaning, right? No,
it's
actually, it doesn't. I'm pondering life. No, don't. Stop it.
Ponder in the end.
From Zach, a non-grumpy thought.
Yeah, this is good.
Why should Armando Bacot, North Carolina, leave? Sure, his eligibility is up. Oh, that's kind of a problem. But college basketball players have never been less students. Not it's necessarily a bad thing. UNC has spent years and resources developing Armando into a valuable player. Moving into the future of college sports, why would schools be okay losing these assets and getting nothing in return because of an outdated NCAA regulation? If we're paying players, explicitly investing resources into players, why would college basketball or football just give their players to another league for free? Armando is both the past and the future of college basketball. Well, I would point this out, Zach. Explicitly investing resources into players. They've always invested resources into players. Time is money. You're developing these guys. Now, there was a payoff for you, the school, and the coach if you developed a player and they got drafted in the NBA and they became a productive NBA player. You could then sell that to incoming recruits. Hey, look,
we put guys in the league.
It was a knock on Duke for the longest time, while Carolina was the one that put guys in the league. They had Michael Jordan, right? Now Duke's got the brotherhood and the shorts, all this other stuff. Anyway, so there's always been an investment in this. And I think the same applies now with the transfer portal in that, hey, look, not only can you expand your marketing opportunities here, play here, you get to play for a championship, you get the experience, and then that still applies that if you balled out at a blue blood school, there's going to be interest from the NBA to get you to move up. So I'm not quite sure it's an apples to apples, because at that point you're basically just European soccer and you are asking an NBA team to buy a player off of you. That's what you're asking.
I don't think we will go that way, but it's not a terrible idea.
No. I think it's a good thought experiment.
Yeah.
And if we could blow it all up and do it differently, man, maybe there's something to it. But we're just not there. We're just not there yet. From Daniel, we need these as stickers. This is from last week when I said there's plenty to talk about today, plenty to get into today. And you're like, do we? And I just gave you the look of, man, I'm trying to cook here. What are we doing? Maybe we turn it into, maybe it's the new t-shirt. Encapsulating the dynamic.
I was trying to think of something Is there something with iconic signs for our next T-shirt?
Yeah, maybe.
Like Myrtle Beach backs the pack. Is there something? Is there a Carolina equivalent? Is there a Duke equivalent? Like the Speedo guy?
You know how I've always wanted jingles.
Yeah.
And we now have jingles.
We have
people remember the
unbelievable jingles.
I've also wanted to do like throwback kind of advertisement stuff. So I feel like there's almost like a script Ovies and Gilia we can do. And the tagline is the best triangle sports talk. Or some sort of effect of like something that you cannot technically argue.
The leader?
I wouldn't go leader, but I would go like the triangle's best sports talk. The triangle's favorite sports talk. These are things that we can state.
Yeah.
That nobody can really prove it one way or the other.
Sure.
It's all a vibe and it's a state of mind. And we could just say, yeah, we're the triangle's favorite sports talk. Do you want to do that?
I like that.
Kind of, almost make it like a shopping bag, where shopping is a pleasure.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, who could dispute it?
Who's going to dispute that shopping is a pleasure at this particular supermarket?
I never said we were the only world champion.
I only said that we were the favorite. And you can ask some people and they'll tell you, well, yeah,
that's my favorite.
That's my favorite sports talk show.
My favorite one to hate.
Ooh, I like it. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. We're workshopping this T-shirt.
There we go.
We're workshopping it.
Still working on it.
We'll see what happens. We'll see y'all tomorrow.